Hey friends, I'm Daniel Nesbitt and welcome back to Designing a Revival Typeface. In the last episode, we covered a lot of ground, and in this episode, we're going to just keep rolling with more characters. And as you may notice, I finally got my webcam set up back online, so hopefully you enjoy the extra visuals moving forward in this series. I know I'm excited about it, but if you have any comments or anything like that, feel free to drop them in the comment section below. So let's jump over here to Glyphs, and as you'll notice, we've got all of our letters up on the screen here. Now, one of the things we were covering in the last episode is some characters that kind of had like designs. So we were working with the F, T, and J, and I wanted to kind of keep that moving along here. So we do have a number of characters here that we can kind of go and reuse other letters or other pieces of letters to keep constructing new characters. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump in. One of the first ones I want to take a look at here is the lowercase u. And it's kind of funny I left this one off a little bit because this is typically a letter that I get out of the way early. For some reason I didn't, so we're going to go ahead and take care of that right now. So just go ahead and as you probably noticed, this typeface seems to have not much in the way of optical corrections. I think we've all kind of noticed that as we've gone through this series. So this is pretty much laying out exactly like I thought it would. So we'll go with that. And then one other letter that I wanted to try and knock out here is the lowercase r. So we're just kind of getting some rapid fire letters done here. But I figured these were kind of nice to get out of the way. As our alphabet is growing and expanding here, we want to start making more words rather than just looking at the letters on the screen here. So a number of these characters are going to work great for that. Now, thankfully, the R is going to require a little bit of help here. And we're just kind of using some of the pieces of the N to put this together. Now, as far as where this stroke kind of terminates here, you know, right now I have it at 70, and it looks like it got pretty thick in the drawing here. And I really don't have much info to go off of and tell anybody if this is right or wrong, so I think we'll keep that there. And we'll just kind of get it roughly lined up. And then what I'm going to do is we're just going to go ahead here, and we'll just kind of deal with each of these pieces kind of separately. It almost looks like this works kind of straight across and curves down, and I presume we'll kind of get this in a similar place. So make sure I'm just grabbing the pieces that I want here. I think I ever so slightly missed with this, but just kind of do something like that, and then go ahead and zoom out. So that doesn't exactly do what I wanted, but if we put the preview on here, maybe we can kind of move this around a little bit and get this to where we want it to go. Now for the right side, I might just use the O for now. What actually does help here is having the N and the U kind of covering off both sides of this. What I can do here is just kind of space this out a little bit, even if I had like O-R-O. It might need a little bit less spacing still on the right side. Haven't fully determined or thought that through yet. But at the moment it kind of gives me at least something in the ballpark of of where I'm hoping this will go. So one other thing we can do is we can flip on Super Tool. I'm not sure that that actually really helps though as I turn that on, so we're going to turn that back off. And I don't know that our curve tool really helps us much here either. Maybe it helps a little. But I do find this R, well, R's in general, a little bit tricky to kind of get working here. But you know, if I'm looking at the scan that I have underneath here, I mean, we are mimicking the couple shapes here, so it's not the end of the world. The other thing that I'm kind of looking at is how does this feel compared to over here. So that's 39, 40, somewhere in there. And that looks about the same. The other trick is that this is coming down at a greater angle into the stem, or I guess a shallower angle if you want to think about it that way. The other side of this, it's kind of more of a direct curve into that vertical stem. But I think we may just leave that one for now. So it at least gets us another character we can kind of work with. And like I said, probably in at least a couple episodes already, we're probably going to go back and maybe take a second look at this, especially once we start getting these set into more letters and what have you. So that's something that I'm just kind of keeping in mind as we go. The only other characters, at least for now, that I wanted to maybe take a look at would be the C and the E. And another reason that I'm kind of focusing on my lowercase letters here is once we get done, I want to start right after this putting some of these letters into words and sentences. So that's kind of my motivation for this. So what we'll do for the C is we're going to just go ahead and grab our O. Just like we've done before, we're not really going to worry about side bearings. Now this, as far as I can tell, it seems like what I'm about to do is pretty much what I think they kind of did with this, which was just kind of making a chop like that. I can't say I'm a huge fan of doing it that way. I mean, it certainly gets us a C. In modern days, this does look awkward. They may have kind of moved it in some as well. So another thing I'm actually going to do while we're here is probably go through and thin this out. So what I'm looking at is we'll go to our heat map. There we go. And I don't know if you can see this very well on the screen, but it actually starts to heat up, I guess is probably the right phrase, as it comes down to where it terminates on this side. You can kind of see how thick it is down here. It's just kind of mimicking this over here, except it doesn't continue. And I really don't want that. So what I'm going to do, is probably take this out, and I want to keep this angle. So I think what I'm going to do, let's just give it a quick measure here. So this is guessing it's about 64. 61 is our, or sorry, 53 is our thin. I'm just going to do my best to kind of guess where this might be. One thing I should take a look at some point is if there's a plugin to help us with this. That's about 55. And I think 2 points will be close enough. So we're going to do that. I'm actually going to take that top out too. And then we're just going to take this whole thing and we're going to kind of condense this just a touch. And then I'll go back, grab our handles here. And we'll just kind of get these roughly into position. And this is probably where I can use Super Tool again. So we'll just kind of see how this feels. And we'll back up here. I think that's a little better. It seems like it kind of curves around a little bit too much here now. And it actually gets too thin, so maybe for that, kind of do something maybe a little bit more like that. Let me just take this whole thing, move it back. If I'm moving things around a couple points, I usually don't mind just holding down my Option key and kind of nudging things around. It's kind of more when I'm making wholesale changes that I'll probably, you know, be a little bit more, I guess, scientific, if that's the phrase. The other thing that I probably should do as well, and apologies if you were shouting at the screen, is use the open corner feature. That is something that's usually helpful for situations like this. So, there we go. We'll make sure that our curve handles are straight. So if I go back to the heat map, I guess now we have the top and the bottom so you can kind of compare, but this looks a little bit better, arguably. I don't know if that really helps it out much to do that. One thing we can take a look at here is our fit curve. So that just kind of helps me nudge it into place. And then if we go back to Super Tool and grab the curvature here. Let's see. For some reason, Super Tool does not want to show me my curvature. I see it on the inside, but not the outside, which is kind of strange. And actually, maybe this is the... I have a hunch that it might just be that open corner that's causing havoc. So what I'm going to do is, for now, we're just going to copy paste. We're going to flip it. Again, this is the perk of an expansion typeface. And then what I'm going to do is just select everything. We'll merge our shapes here. We'll just get rid of these for now. Yeah, now Super Tool likes that a little bit better. So for the moment, we'll just get by without the open curves, and I might just revisit that a little bit later. So what we'll do here is we'll just kind of get these nudged over to the right spot so the curve looks a little bit smoother, which I think that helps. The other thing I'm going to do is just switch back. And I think what I want to do is we're going to have the bottom curve out. Maybe it even comes up just a touch more too. Pretty much the thought process with this is it kind of gives the C kind of a way up. So again, like I was talking about with some earlier letters, our eyes tend to perceive the bottom of a character a little bit differently than the top of a character. So by doing something like this, let's see, there we go. It just kind of gives that visual weight to the bottom of this. So that's kind of the idea with this. So we'll go through and just kind of rely on our fit curve a little bit again. I'm also looking at how this kind of matches up to the scan underneath. If we go back to Super Tool, just kind of nudge these over a little bit. The other thing I'm actually going to do is we're just going to go ahead for now and put the side bearings of the O on either side of that. If If I zoom out a little bit, I'd say that looks pretty serviceable. And it seems to kind of match the scan pretty well with how each side here terminates. So I think I like where that is at for the moment. So we'll go ahead, we'll unlock the image. Let's slide it over to the E. I am curious how much this is going to match up. Sometimes when I've done revivals in the past, you can kind of tell they just, you know, grabbed the C and pretty much continued the shape around. But yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised here, especially after looking at the O that we did a little bit earlier, that they looks like they actually did some work here on the E. So what we'll do for this is we're going to utilize these 2 points. We are going to delete that so we can close this here. And then what we'll have to do is line up all these points. And I think for the height of this, we're actually just going to steal it from the T, which is 56. Interesting, because I actually just guessed on that and was at 57, so kind of fun when that happens. And then what we're going to do here is we're just going to do right angles for the curves here. So I'm going to kind of get the inner one roughly set. We'll get the outer one roughly set here. One thing I might actually do, we're going to add another point in there. We're going to maybe have that kind of come down a little bit straighter. So that curve isn't going to end right at the point here. It's actually going to start a little bit further up and then kind of move over. And with that, I can kind of adjust this a little bit. I've really been into holding the Option key down and just kind of grabbing the middle of my line here lately. I don't know if I really want to call that a life hack per se, but it's kind of been a habit that I've been picking up, so maybe something like that. And then for the inside, yeah, the fit curve is not going to want to work with us on this, so we'll have to kind of manually adjust this a little bit, because it does feel like it gets a little bit thicker. And I actually wonder too, does this kind of do the same thing to a lesser degree? Maybe not. One thing I'm already seeing here is how narrow it gets here compared to the other side, which is 62, so that's already looking off. And then we've kind of got this blob going on down here. So I'm not exactly sure that's what I'm after. This may be a case where you have to go something more like that. So that gets us 59, 60. It's a little better. One other thing I could do, I've seen this before, I don't know, maybe this works here, is we just kind of have it, you know, curve around, so this isn't at a perfect angle here. It actually curves back in. Maybe that's kind of our answer here. I know I've seen some E's do that. So maybe ours does too. Just kind of nudge this around again. We're at roughly 59, 60, so I think we're in the ballpark on that. The other nice part about doing this where it kind of curves around a little bit is it kind of gets rid of some of the bulk there too, so I just have to be careful how much I push that over. Maybe that was a little bit too much. Another thing, Well, I kind of stand back and look at it. Maybe I leave this for now. We'll see how the bottom of the letter resolves a little bit. So yeah, we get 60, 67 there. 63, so that does get a little bit thicker there. 66, 67, 62, 63. It's just kind of playing around until I guess we're kind of happy with something, but it seems relatively even, so we'll roll with that for now. The bottom down here, when I was setting all this up, I was kind of hoping this would be just a little bit easier to manage, so let's see what we can do for this part of the E. What I might actually do, I kind of like the idea that we're keeping this curve a little bit more consistent, or I guess the angle, I should say, a little bit more consistent. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and grab it off the C so we have the right angle, and then we'll just kind of go and my attempt is going to be that maybe we can just use that. So it may not stay exactly true to how this is drawn, but I'm inclined to think it might look better. Now we'll just kind of have to figure out how the rest of this goes. So it's going to take some moving points around here a little bit. I do get excited though when the fit curve tool doesn't really have much in the way of suggestions for me. That my guess was close with my original point placement. It just kind of nudges it and cleans it up a little bit. It's always a satisfying feeling. But I think the apex of my curve feels off down there. And I guess if I make this a little bit bigger, I guess Super Tool kind of acknowledges that. And I should add too, for those looking at things like Super Tool and the like, you don't always want to be relying on this stuff a great deal. I know I kind of make it look like I do, and I probably really shouldn't, to be honest. It's kind of a good tool to maybe inform me if I'm in the right direction, but it shouldn't always, kind of be one of those be-all, end-all sort of things. But one thing I am actually wondering is maybe if I took a different part of the C, so in this case we're taking the top of it, and maybe something like that. I guess one other thing I'm seeing too here is I may have nudged my E out of bounds a little bit. Looks like it's just kind of the bottom here, so let's go ahead and get that fixed up so it's nicely on the baseline. I'm still 1 unit off, maybe? Nope, I'm not 1 unit off. Now we're back on. There we go. So that should get us, there we go. Now everything clicks in a little bit better. And if we zoom out, to me that looks a little bit cleaner. It's kind of a goofy E to some level, I think. Again, I'm also looking at this through the lens of one character. Again, like I said, we really should be putting these into words here, so at some point we'll get doing that. Maybe something like that. Just kind of do a quick triple check there. So I think we're in the ballpark. Also adjust the metrics while we're there. So for the time being, what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and delete that. And there's a couple ways we can go through and test this. So I think what we'll do, I do have a plugin called Wordomat on here, which I believe is under, or no, I do not. I have Word Finder. However, Word Finder does not work on my computer. So I honestly have no idea why it doesn't work either. It usually crashes glyphs. So we're not going to do that, which means that I kind of have to come up with words on the fly here. So I think what I'm going to do is we're just going to grab all of the letters that we have so far, because this is a pretty solid collection. If I do something like that, I'm going to select everything. Now, I could go through and type in here, but one thing I want to try is our text preview window. If I can. Maybe I can't. For some reason I'm not getting... I think we have to add an export. Now let's try it. Yep, there we go. So what we can do, the reason why I like this window just a little bit better is it kind of works a little bit more like a text editor. And I can also go ahead and just actually type in actual point values here. I think if I pin it to, yeah, so what's kind of nice is I can actually pin this off to the side with the little pin icon, and then if I need to go in and edit something, I can kind of keep my context here with my letters here. So with all of these, I think we can do, without the caps on, we could do hello, we could do noon. I keep wanting to write fresh, but I don't have an S, so that doesn't work. I guess free, we could do that. I don't have an A. I was thinking portal. Do delete. We could do feeler. We could do the isn't very exciting, but I guess it gets the job done. I think quorum. That's a pretty decent word. This kind of feels like playing Wordle a little bit. Just trying to guess words a little bit. So this is kind of helping me out a little bit. I can kind of start seeing how these words are coming together. And we're definitely getting kind of an idea of how this might start to go. I don't think I don't have anything here that I can really work with. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to kind of jump over to my webcam here real quick as I dial some things up, because, you know, we have to keep our desktops super secret. There is one additional resource I do have, though, and while I'm putting this together, or figuring out where this is bookmarked on my computer, you know, I just kind of want to touch base a little bit on what my plan is. So, you know, it's exciting when we go through and we do a bunch of letters like this on the screen, and, you know, we're just drawing characters, we're kind of looking at things one-on-one. But, you know, a lot of times what any type designer will tell you is we're not designing letters, we're designing letters for words, or letters for things like logos or headlines, or, you know, blocks of copy or whatever. So while you're designing type, it's really important that you start to get that in those scenarios as soon as you can, because you'll start to see a lot of things that may or may not be working in your typeface. So that's kind of the idea with what I'm doing here. And once I get this up on screen, you'll kind of see how this works a little bit. So we'll jump back over to my full screen now that I'm out of hiding mode here. I will link this tool in the description below at the end of this video, but I really like this tool because you can go through and it gives you actually a number of tests, and it gives you a number of tests in different point sizes and different scenarios. You can kind of start to see how things are shaping up here. Now, because I'm doing a revival typeface, this, I'm not probably going to see major issues unless I really drew a letter wrong or something's really bothering me. And for the most part, just at a glance here, that seems to be the case. I think I can actually zoom in a little bit here so this makes a little more sense. Now, a couple things to note is that I'm ignoring things like dashes because our font doesn't have dashes, and numbers are usually another thing that it tries to, I think it's inserting like Helvetica or something like that. And you'll notice it too with, I think, punctuation as well. So really all we're trying to look at and concentrate on here is the A through Z upper and lowercase, or I guess the letters that I drew within those two. But as we go through here, we can kind of get a good idea, how is this working in paragraph form. It does have some, little headlines here. Of course, it has a big one at the top that we can kind of take a look at. There's things like a lettering tab here, which can be helpful. If you want to see what your character sets are looking like. I am going to avoid the current hinting Latin and world scripts for now because that really doesn't serve me much. And actually, what I'm going to do is we're actually going to do one other tab here as well. We're going to go through and get this set up real quick. So the tab that I'm on is, I guess, a little bit tamer, for lack of better words. And you'll notice there was a couple other tabs here for different things, Latin 1, Latin 2, Cyrillic, Devanagari, a bunch of stuff there. Really all I'm concentrating on is the Latin 1 and the Latin 2. So this is the second one, the Latin 2 tab. This gets into a few more oddities. So you can kind of go through, you can click, take a look, you can see how things are shaping up. But one thing I do like about this one is it includes spacing strings. So right now we've got like our O and our N here, but then it actually generates next to each character. So you start to get an idea of how your spacing looks and if you need to go through and correct anything with your spacing. So this can certainly be helpful and useful. You can kind of see how things are starting to shape up. So you're not only seeing, how does the color of your typeface look, which is, when we say color, we're looking at, an evenness across, that there's no blotchy spots if you were to squint and kind of, visually blur the letters. We can go through and we can kind of see, how does our spacing look? Do we have the appropriate amount of spacing to either side of all of our different letters? And even the space itself, that is one thing that I usually try and start looking at around this point is, if I have a paragraph, for example, of text, which I believe was the layout here, as I start building up more words or start building more letters, I'm getting more words. And now I start to get an idea for how my literal space key is starting to shape up. Do I have enough? Is it too much? Is it too little? So we can go through and we can kind of adjust that and work on that a little bit. The other thing too is we could go through, we could copy this. If I jump back into Glyphs here, into our text preview, it is worth maybe if you want to, grab some of the copy here. We'll pick a point size here that's a little bit easier to see, but you can go through and start to build up just like some nice paragraphs of text or headlines or things like that. So you can kind of bring this into Glyphs and then use that as part of your design process as well. So like I said, I will leave a link to this in the description. It's a really cool tool. I'm kind of torn if I would want to see this in Glyphs as a plugin or not, and maybe somebody has put it in Glyphs as a plugin, but again, super useful that we can kind of start to build some of this out. And of course, if you're able to get things like Wordomat or Word Finder working in your copy of Glyphs, I highly recommend that. The benefit to that is that you can go through select the words that you've already designed, and then it just works through a set of dictionaries to determine what words or phrases that it can put together for you, so that rather than having some of these gaps here where I don't have letters designed yet, you're just getting words that use the letters you have. So that's another useful thing as well. So with that, I think we're going to call it for today's episode. So hopefully you enjoyed this. You enjoyed the webcam. Hopefully that didn't jar too many people seeing my face on screen. But yeah, as always, if you have any thoughts, comments, or anything that you saw in this episode that you just want to say hey about, make sure to drop that in the comment section below. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button, and if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you go ahead and do that. I've really been enjoying watching this channel grow over the last year, even as I haven't been doing a ton of videos, but it's great to see more people with an interest in type design. And of course, if you have any friends that are interested in this kind of stuff, I always appreciate when you pass any of these episodes along as well. So with that, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next episode.